perhaps vision for the relationship. See, that was really the breakthrough, I think, for me, because it feels so good sometimes to just snap back when you feel like you shouldn't have gotten a response like that. Our biggest thing that continuously seems to perplex us, and we're definitely getting better with this, but what is it, 2 days ago we kind of went back into it, but we actually got out of it really fast, is when it's the same kind of pattern. He's saying something he wants to be listened to, and he feels like I discount it. And sometimes I do discount it because I'm just like, nope, not going to do it this way. Or I just disagree. So I'm like, nope, nope. And then it's like we got the battle of the two strong personalities. Just then, if he will rise up and be like, rah, like a lion, and then I'll be like, hey, how can you treat me like that? And I'll just be rah back at him. But not like a lion like him. Mine is different. Like he's like a lion, and then I'm just irritated, and I'm like, why do you have to be like this again? Very like disappointed. So we have our little patterns, and then that just makes him feel like, is he crazy? Am I crazy?
Yeah,
I'm like passive aggressive, right? I'm just like, I'm like,
yeah,
I'll say something in a certain way that just absolutely takes him through the roof, and then he responds just like boom in a split second, and then I'm like, why do you have to be this way? All I said was this. Why do we
yeah,
keep doing this? And then, okay, go ahead. That's it
yeah.
to a
So
T.
part of my behavior in the past is reactionary. So I grew up in a place where in the South on the East Side, and back in Kentucky, and it's kind of that um, what is it, that respect. So that you don't want to be disrespected thing, which I found out later that if you're living with the need to be respected, that's one of the lower levels of living, of being, is that when you fight for your respect, when you live in that level of needing to have respect, that tells the world that you have nothing else. You have nothing else about you. You have nothing else that you own. You have nothing else that you can give. You have nothing. You're at the very bottom of the hierarchy of the tribal systems of human relationships. You're at the very bottom. And if you have nothing else to lose but respect. So if you live down in that world, that tells people that you're struggling to survive. When you can live above that, where you know that you have respect, when you have given respect to so many good, strong people, and from that you get respect back. You've contributed and given so much to the neighborhood, to the society, to the world, to others, to people who are close to you, people you don't even know. That respect comes back to you, and nobody else can take that away. So if nobody else can take it away, you're not in fear of it being taken away. Uh, so you don't have to live there. You can live at a much higher level now. So I still have parts of that. So when somebody, um, especially if I'm trying to do something for someone, which I love doing stuff for Janet, and it gets kind of discounted, or it becomes a throwaway or something. That I'm a very team player. My family, 12 of us, 11 brothers and sisters, and you couldn't get anything done unless you did it as a team. And mountaineering, and engineering, it's all team stuff. Janet's more of an individual. Um, she's not really a team. She's tried to be an assistant before many, many times. And are you told that you're a good assistant or not a good assistant?
I am not a good assistant.
Not a
Well,
good
I've been
assistant.
told that by Jeff Foote, one of my first mentors. Yeah,
But she's great to have around. Um, so the two of us we work differently. And that's where I think a lot of the relationship conflict comes in together. So I have expectations of a team. She has expectations of just getting stuff done. and discounting anything that is irrelevant or gets in our way. And so that comes into emotional conflict. And I let that make me feel like I'm not being, I maybe it's that I'm not being respected, or I'm not being given the respect of my input, my energies. And so then I let that be a trigger to in a response. And I think we've worked really well to not respond to those triggers the way that we've done in the past. They're still there. We still have to work through them. And she is working towards not being that passive aggressive, or stepping back from being passive aggressive when those kinds of situations arrive. Because when you're passive aggressive, that's what you do. You discount everything except for what you want. You don't yell, you don't get angry, but you can have a bite in the way that you say something, or you can seem like you're being nice to the other person, but you're totally discounting it because you want to just keep focusing on doing it your way. You're aggressive in getting stuff done, but you don't do it in a confrontational way. That's passive aggressive, and that's one of Janet's traits, which she's gotten much better at. She's not near the way she was before. So those are the conflicts that we've had to work through, and it's very easy to step back into what was familiar in your family, from your neighborhood, the way you grew up, the way you thought that things were right. This is the way things work. This is how they should be. This is how people should talk to me. This is how I should talk to them. I was on a set with a producer one time, and she was from New York, and she had this persona, this belief that she could give it all to everybody, and if people couldn't take it, then tough. But that's who she was. She grew up in New York, and people out in California, they just didn't know how to handle confrontation or the directness that she has, when in fact, that wasn't the case. She just wasn't listening. She wasn't stepping back from her own internal dialogue and listening to what's going on in the set and utilizing people the best way possible. She was, I think really what she was doing was protecting herself. She had this big, strong front, this loud voice. And what that was for was just really to protect her. I don't see her working anymore. I do know that she had to, I do know she had to sell her house. And it was, I think she got into problems because she wasn't, she seemed to be in control and everything on set, but she wasn't fun to be around. And I don't think the agency and clients, I don't think they really enjoyed having her around either. She didn't create good energy on the set. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we're going to go to with this call, is creating good energy on set. So, and so all those, sometimes those things that you bring with yourself that you feel that are strong parts of your personality, things that will drive you forward, sometimes you might want to step back and say, are these really doing me what I want them to do? Are they giving me the results that I want? And if not, I had to do that. And we're going to get into this a little bit in this call. There were a lot of things that I had to change when I went on the set.
I want to say before we get into that, because I think it's such a good point, is what we tend to go into life, our situations. I mean, we tend to go into being on set, our relationships, with this person from the past that we created to deal with conflicts back then. Now, for me, it was to be a tough girl, go-getter. I'm going to conquer this. And that is what I had to do in my mind in order to survive. And that was also, since I was this strong, striving, I didn't listen very well to people. I'm like, it is going my fucking way. Every single thing, everything. It's all about me. Everything. So I feel that fire and that power in me from all those years of trying to prove myself, and like, I've got to handle this and take care of it and tell everybody what to do. And this is serious business. Okay, you can see it in my face. So the wiring is there. It's real strong in my mind. The wiring is really strong in your mind for how you've developed yourself to be. Now, the real breakthrough here is looking at how that impacts the world. Is that the best way? Is that a good way? Is that, if you really want to have a life where you've got a lot of love and connection, a lot of contribution, because those are the highest levels of needs out there, you know. Not being right, not, you know, it's love and connection, and it's contribution and growth. Those are the highest levels. Those give you the most fulfillment in life. Is this way of being where I'm a hard driver, I'm making it happen person, is it going to experience that? Is that person going to experience love, connection, and contribution? It's really tough because they're so focused on themselves. And are they going to have good relationships when you're so like hard driving person? Well, you know, when it's all about you and you're not really thinking about other people because you're so freaking focused on yourself, probably not. Are you actually creating a lot of pain in those relationships? Yeah, you kind of are, right? And being on set, how's that person on set? You know, you're looking at everything through that lens of, I got to prove myself. I got to have certain kinds of conversations so that people know who I am. Again, all about myself. Am I connecting with people? Am I contributing to people? No, it's really all about me. So it was a breakthrough moment when I realized where that was coming from, and I was living from this personality that I felt like I had to create to survive and to be successful in the world. Okay, I realized I was living through that personality, and it wasn't necessarily who I was because he really brought out this cuddly, sweet side of me that the more and more that I got to be that little girl, the more that it was like, oh, that's a big part of me, you know. This cuddly little protect me and hug me and take care of me, and, you know, you be the leader. And he stepped into that role. And but he allowed me to bring out that other side of me. That's pretty cool. And then I got aware to it too with doing all this work I've done, the landmark stuff and the Robin stuff and everything. I got aware to it. Because I remember I said in the class, this was like 15 years ago, I said, yeah, I work in the film industry. I said it to the whole class. I work in the film industry, and, you know, it's really rough out there. And my big question is, how do you get people to like you? And the whole class goes, like, as if that was the most ridiculous question. Like, well, how do you get people to hire you and like you? And they're like, oh, like, you can't, you know, it's the wrong question, because it's all about you and trying to manipulate other people. And I felt like, at first I was like, what's wrong with that question? I mean, what? Of course, that's the way you know, you got to make things go your way. What's wrong with you people? You know? And so obviously it impacted me, because I still remember that moment. I was like, and I guess that was the first kind of little breakthrough there. I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe your way of being out there, there's something to learn around this. So I've been learning it for the last 15 years, ever since that moment. It's so funny, these patterns. Just be gentle with yourself, because these patterns are strong and they are survival. They came from survival. All right, well, let's talk about the
Onset.
feeling, the onset, the feeling like you need to contribute and give your opinion on the way things should go on set. So this is certain kind of personality types that are more like this. I never was like that. I never had that need. But I'm not an AD personality, audio digital personality. I'm just, you know, there are different kinds of personality types. There's visual. A lot of directors, a lot of DPs are visual. They take in the world through what they see. You know, there's auditory people like myself that we hear things and we just process it like that. AD people, which that's what Joe is, and some of you guys might be AD, but these are like the engineers. It's the way that you process information. You know, you need to see it and then see all of the ways that it's related to have it make sense to you. And so these are often like, you know, rocket science kind of people, engineering kind of people. Maybe some production people are like that. But I remember working with this production assistant. Now, this was years ago, and I have not seen him since, so I don't think that possibly he did too well. I remember I was working with him, and he was annoying. Now, that's just a very general word, but that's when people are working and somebody's acting a certain way, and they're not thinking too much about that person, they can just come across as annoying. And that's not really at all what he was trying. Obviously, he's not trying to be annoying at all. He's trying to do his job, make things better. But I remember all day on the shoot, he's giving suggestions to me and to other people. We should move this closer because of this. And he's a production assistant. You know, this shouldn't be here like that because people can trip on it. You know, he was making suggestions all day long to everybody about the way that it should be done on set, to people that have been doing this for 20 years, 30 years. And there's reasons that he did not understand, the reasons why everything on set is done a certain way. Now, not always. Sometimes safety hazards can come up because somebody didn't see it. So keep your eyes open. It's not foolproof. But for the most part, the reason why things are done, there's a reason why everything is done a certain way. So it's just annoying when somebody keeps bringing up, oh, this should be done a certain way. Have you ever considered this? And you're just like, yeah, there's a good reason, this, and this. At the end of the day, he was going around to everybody, passing out his card. Here's my card, passing out his card. And people are like, okay, thanks. And just like, they weren't responding well. Because we don't pass around cards, we make relationships, don't we? And then we exchange information. So he didn't get it. And I believe it's because he has a need to give information. He has a need to make the world the way that he thinks it should be. And that just doesn't work on set. Now, Joe has a touch of this, that in the thing is like, it's the same kind of frickin' thing as when I started, you know, the same thing as me being a tough girl that has its results on set. It had its results on set, didn't it? Until I realized love and connection is really who I am, and that's a world I want to live in. You know, that's the world I want to create instead of being the tough girl and having everybody be like, you know, be me using everybody in a way, kind of, you know. It's kind of like it's all about you. So in a way, we're kind of, until we wake up, we're just living this story. You know, tough girl that has its results. It's not giving me the life I want. This guy has to be a certain way, and he's caught in that story, and it's going to give certain results on set, negative results. So, like Joe's background, being in the military, things are done a certain way. It's life or death. So therefore, he was very good at his job, and that it served him. He was in the submarines. It really served him to be that kind of like very thoughtful, think of everything in detail, and think about the procedures that should be done to get this done the absolute best way. That served him in the military. On the film set, you have to adjust. It didn't work for him for the first couple of years very well. And maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the military, construction, working as an engineer, working on projects, all of that was, we're going to bring up every problem that there is. We're going to confront them. If someone isn't picking up what they're supposed to be picking up, we're going to confront them, and we're going to make sure that every stone gets turned over and everybody's doing what they're supposed to do on a timeline. So you have charts that have timelines, and things have to be done when they have to be done, and everything's really serious. You don't get creative. I mean, you are creative, but you don't get just randomly creative. You have to get things done in a specific way. So going on set, there's lots of things that I saw that could have been done differently, especially in the preparation side. That would have made it and then the communication side, which would have made it a whole lot easier for our other departments to support what's happening. And I was a little like that PA guy. I was a little bit like, hey, we should straighten these cables out. Hey, why don't we rearrange all this stuff, and then we can fit everybody in here a lot easier so they're not stepping over top of stuff. Well, that stops 3 different departments from what they're doing. It basically, I'm telling people they're slobs. I'm telling people they don't know what they're doing. That's essentially what I'm doing when I'm asking these people to rearrange the way that they're doing stuff. Now, if a situation comes up like Janet's talking about, where there's a safety issue, or to get all that stuff rearranged, there's a different way of going about it than to say, hey, why don't we move this and move this and move this? So I had these camera operators I worked with all the time, and they know I'm a good guy. They know I'll do anything for them. But I would get focused in what I'm doing, and I would just say, here, put this on here, put this on here. And one of the ACs, he's a feature film AC, when I did it, all the seconds in the other first agreed to do it. They just took it because that was who I was with them, and they know I care about them. They do know that. But the first AZ goes, please. And it made me stop and realize I'm not working with them. I'm kind of
He said the word please?
Yeah, he said the word please.
Oh, he reminded you to say the word please.
Right. Or to say it in an asking way, not to say it in a demanding way. Mm-hmm. Right. Hey, here's this. Could you guys put this on? Are you guys ready for this? Something like that. Mm-hmm. But to look them in the eyes and engage with them, mm-hmm. and to ask them to do something instead of to walk up assuming that if I hand it to them, that tell them what to do, that it's okay. Which that's not okay. But the pre-planning, so that was the biggest thing in engineering. You do a lot of pre-planning, and it was obvious that not a lot of pre-planning goes into many shoots. And a lot of that's because of the nature of the filming. That's because they're creative people. Oh, and getting back into, Janet said that I'm auditory digital. We had another mentor one time that told us they don't like to take tests. They don't like to give tests to people because what they found is that people identify with those tests. And when they identify with those tests, then they'll start to act to match. Their actions will begin to match the results of those tests. So if you take a test that says, I'm a leader, I'm a follower, I'm a auditory digital, that could cause you to become more of that. And it might not be that you are that, it's just that's the way that you're behaving. If you change your behaviors, if I start to think more visually, I will become more of a visual person. I believe I will start to see the world more visually if I start to think in visual terms. So I don't really want to identify that I'm an auditory digital. It's kind of fun, but anything more than that, I don't want to do that. So I would...
I'm learning a lot today. I didn't realize that. So does this mean that you're not going to wear all green all the time? Like everything green? Green pants, green shirt, green
My
everything?
socks aren't green.
Contrast, visual contrast is.
You've been good. You've definitely been good for me in that way, Janet. I do say what would contrast, and that's how the green one looks fine.
The green, and so what matches green? Green. Yeah.
But getting on set, yeah, it's really good to step back and watch what other people do. It's good to let them do their things. They're in their rhythm. Let them stay in the rhythm and get stuff done. It is a creative world. It's a visual world. They are not going to think in this very linear fashion. They're not going to think in a way that has them plan everything out, because when they get there, the light's going to be a little different. The shadows are going to be a little different. The actor is going to give a little bit different performance than what they might have envisioned. Everything may change from what they creatively had originally envisioned, or at least a good part of it. And so all that planning would have been for naught, or most of it would have been. This isn't a project, a manufacturing project. Things aren't going to stay mostly the same. Things on a film set are very fluid. It's very creative. And in order for me to fit in, I had to really change how I was. I couldn't be that project manager walking on set and thinking that I could manage everybody in a better way to get things done in a better way. That will not work. You have to step back, watch everybody, find the flow, get into that rhythm, there is no problems on set. Now, have you brought this up, Janet? There's no problems on set. If they walk up and say, hey, we'd like to do that, is that a problem? As an engineer, as a climber? Yeah, it's a problem. Let's figure out a solution. No, it's like, oh, that's interesting. We could probably do that. Give me a second. Give me 5 minutes to figure that out. There's no problems. They don't want to hear problems. They have too many problems if they ever thought about it. No problems. They only want solutions. They want to be able to do what they want to do. Now you have to be safe and you have to be legal. For the most part, you have to be legal. And safety is the thing that's an absolute line. You have to be safe. But no problems. And so that was a big change too.
And you don't say, I don't think that's going to work.
Right.
You basically never say the word no.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I'm not sure. Probably not, but let me see. It should be, let me see. It might, instead of the other way around.
Yes, yes.
So sometimes we're used to under promising and then over delivering. That's not, so you can do that by saying probably not, but maybe I can. That's under promising. That kind of gives you wiggle room. But if you just say that's could be doable, let me figure that out. That's kind of saying the same thing, but it's saying it in a positive way.
Much better.
Instead of a negative way.
If the word no is starting to come off of your lips, put it right back in your mouth. Don't use that word no.
Right.
Now, you'll know. You'll catch yourself, because we're used to a normal life saying no, or saying I don't think that's going to work, or whatever.
And don't say it with your face either.
Yeah, don't say it with your face either. Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest things. Like that. Yeah, like don't say it. Don't shake your head. Well, don't be all serious either. I don't know, because you're only thinking of your own department. See, you have to realize that there's a chain of people that have come behind that question that's come up now, and it's important. It's really, you might think, oh, well, that's just not a big deal. Why can't that other department just handle it? There's a reason. There's always a reason that you don't know, and it's not your place to know the whole thing, and there's no time to explain everything to you. So you ask the appropriate questions so that you can be helpful and say, yes, yes, yes. I have made this mistake too. For sure, I've made it probably even in the last 5 years, because sometimes things get brought up and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I don't think that's going to work. That's not going to work. How could, these people don't understand. That would never work. You can't say that. You're like, well, I think that could cause these things. Let me give an example. So, this is a really perfect one. I get called for the Super Bowl spot in Hawaii, and they want to do the ASMR outside on a mountaintop with Zoe Kravitz. And so ASMR is where people speak like this. You can barely hear me now, can't you? And that's because a fan is going, and I'm whispering. But I'm below whispering. So ASMR, like the rage, and they want to do it outside on the mountaintop in Hawaii. So the producer's like, so you think you can do that? I'm like, I can record it, yes. And this sounds like a really exciting project. I think that we may need to give some expectations to understand the elements that we're working with so that everybody's on the same page. And so we've got very low level sound that we're wanting to capture. And we've got the environment, and we've got the wind, and we've got the wind going through the trees, and even a tiny little clink that's super soft that would never be a problem. When the sound is so soft, it's going to be like louder than that sound that we're trying to capture. But they wanted what they wanted. So they kept emailing me, what if we made a sound, we put up all these plexiglass walls around. And they just kept coming up with all these different ways. And I couldn't say, no, it's not going to work. I want to say, no, it's not going to work. Now I'm like, well, the concern would be that the wind is going to push against those plexiglass walls and you'll hear that, whoo, whoo, whoo. And then the concern is that it's going to sound like she's in a box where she's supposed to be out in the environment. So, and I really had no solution for this, because you cannot record ASMR. You cannot do this outside. You just can't do it outside, basically, But I'm not going to tell them that. I'm going to explain the challenges of it. Because otherwise, it would have killed the whole Super Bowl spot, and the director wanted it, and this is going to be like really great for their career, and the production company wanted it, and the producer wanted it, and the agency wanted it, the client wanted it, they all want it. This is their idea. This is their baby. You can't just say, sorry, you can't do it like that. So what ended up happening was we tried. I tried as best as I could, and it turned out that none of my sound could be used. And so they had to bring it all inside they had to bring her in and re-record it. And of course I knew that was going to happen, but I gave it my best shot. And yeah, and I said, we'll give it our best shot. I said, we have to make a decision here if the sound is more important or if the picture is more important, because if the sound really is more important, we're really going for that. Now, I'm almost talking like to a child here, but we're all children. So if the sound is more important, then we may want to do this in the morning when there's no wind, and all the most important lines when there's no wind. And that's going to affect everything. Having to do it you're basically shooting picture for sound. We don't normally do that. And so they talked about it, they discussed it. Now that I'm making the producer look good, because he's having conversations that need to be had in a way that's very smart, makes him look good, and also addressing what's so important for them. So he came back to me and said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to go with the way that should be shot for the time, the lighting, what should be done, and we'll catch it. And if we have to, then we'll have to ADR it. And I was like, perfect. And that's what I wanted to hear. So, and they paid me $9,000 for that one day, and then they didn't even use any of my sound. There you go. But is that a problem? No, not a problem for me, for sure. Is it a problem for them? No. Everybody they wanted to do it that way. They got a scratch track, and $9,000 for sound. This Super Bowl for Michelob, this thing made them millions, and got them on press all over the place. So it's a game. It's a good game.
Yeah, there was a lot more in that conversation than what Janet was talking about. So there were, so all during that conversation, she set expectations, and she did it in a way that said, this is what is possible. This is what we can do here. These are the things that might be a compromise. These are some things that might come up when we do it this way. Or here's some other ways. They could have shot it. They could have sent a camera crew over, shot the crap out of it, brought it back, and we could have put it on a projection stage. I don't know if you've seen these great big LED walls, big projection walls. We've used them in car commercials where they go out and shoot with cameras in all different directions, and then they put them up on the walls and they set the car on a stage, and you cannot tell that you're not out driving. It looks like you're out driving, but you're sitting on a stage, and you have the sunlight So if you're going underneath the trees and stuff and shadows come from the trees, all of that is happening as the car is sitting there on stage. So it looks like it's moving in the scene that the camera shot everything in. So you could have done the same thing here. I had some big Ritter fans to blow a little bit of air across her. And you could have done it that way, but the director wanted it to be done in that real 3D environment. So they decided to do it the way she did it. And she brought a whole slew of microphones that looked really cool. So
Yeah, I
visually,
tried. Oh yeah. Well, it was there. It's funny. You're kind of, in a way, you're playing the game because that's what they wanted.
right?
They had, from the very top, they wanted to do it authentically, because to not do it authentically would, then the whole thing would be like a sham. So it ended up that they couldn't. They tried really hard. So you got to try really hard too. Yeah,
Right.
that's pretty cool.
And then if you're not the right person to make the decision, so when you get into your crafts later on, if you're not the right person to make the decision, you need to figure out a way to um, get that decision made by the right person. And you can't just say that's not my responsibility. If they come to you to say, is this going to be okay, the conversation needs to be, um, this might affect this other person. I think it would be good if we brought them in on it too, because it's going to impact them more than it's going to impact me.
Well, I just remember, and I don't, because I love to share my mistakes. Uh, I really do, because then you'll see that, sometimes you're not going to say things perfectly, and it's okay. But I remember one time, and it had to do with camera department. They said something, I said, that's not my department. And I kind of walked away. The way I just said it right there is the way I can be with Joe sometimes. And that just enrages him. And yes, still learning. Anyway, there was another audible gasp on set. Because you never say, sorry, that's not my department. You always have a helpful attitude. Oh, okay, let's discuss this. Or how can I help? It's almost a different tone of voice, isn't it? It's a different tone of voice. That's not my department. Now, that comes from stress, having other things that you need to solve in the moment, and now they're bringing up something, and maybe they should know better, possibly, or there's a reason behind why they're asking this. But it's just a response that you do not hear on set because it's not appropriate. Sorry, not my problem, not my department. It's teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. Audible gasp. And I noticed it. I was like, oh, good thing that you heard that. Because that was a huge no-no. Good to know. Good to know.